Warning: this video contains One Piece spoilers until manga chapter 1126. If you're an anime only, I'd suggest you guys to click off this video and keep yourself unspoiled for the future events of the story. It's genuinely insane how Oda has been writing One Piece for 28 years at this point, and Egghead might just be some of his best work yet. If I'm being honest, I was pretty burnt out on One Piece around halfway into the Onigashima raid. The Oda backstory had some of the most iconic and defining moments of the series, and it was followed up by an insanely dragged out raid, filled with moments I just did not care about. I basically checked out and stopped caring about Luffy vs Kaido around 15 chapters into Roof Piece. And while I definitely got a bit more invested around the Gear 5 reveal, I was slowly starting to think that Oda may have lost his touch. Especially as we were entering into the final saga with basically no setup for the Egghead arc, unlike every single previous arc. And that's why I can't believe that Oda managed to pull me back into the story with an absolutely incredible start to the final saga in Egghead. This is the arc that made me fall back in love with One Piece, and I wanna dedicate this video to talk about why I love Egghead so much since I finally decided to stop being a fake fan and start catching up to the manga. So, the first thing about this arc that really stands out compared to every other One Piece arc is that Oda actually shows us what's happening around the rest of the world in real time instead of off-screening moments that literally shake up the entire world. Previously, moments like these would be briefly mentioned at the end of every major arc, and we'd actually get to see some stuff happening if Oda was feeling generous that day. This formula was completely changed in Egghead, and we were blessed with some insane moments like Law vs Blackbeard not even 5 chapters into Egghead. These cutaways to the rest of the world also help the main focus of the arc, because Oda can just switch perspectives instead of making up random bullshit to stall time like the Ice Oni stuff in Wano. Even though I was spoiled on most of the fight matchups, it was amazing to see Shanks finally putting Captain Mid to rest, Luffy dunking on Lucci and Kizaru, the Heart Pirates managing to fight against Blackbeard's crew even though it wasn't for that long, and Beppo having one of the most hype moments in the entire arc. And I haven't even mentioned everything that happened on the pirate island with Garp and Reverie with Sabo. Egghead is easily the best paced and tightly packed story arc in One Piece so far, and it's actually insane that even the anime doesn't feel like it's dragging, aside from a few rare episodes. I really hope that Oda continues to do these perspective changes now that we're in the final saga and it wasn't just exclusive to Egghead for some reason. Now, let's talk about the characters that really got to shine in Egghead, aside from Kuma, because the Giga Chad like him deserves an entire section dedicated to him. First up, we have Kizaru, and this was really surprising because I really didn't care about him before Egghead. This arc was basically Kizaru's Ohara incident, and it finally breaks his carefree demeanor because he's ordered to kill his best friend Vegapunk. Kizaru finally reached his breaking point of dealing with the Navy's bullshit after everything he's forced to do in Egghead, and I absolutely loved that scene where he pops off at Akainu and basically calls him a bitch. Also really liked his dynamic with Sentomaru and getting that small backstory between them. I really hope that we run into Sentomaru again because I don't think the Navy's gonna want him to come back. I also love that we're getting some more focus on the Marines and having them doubt the actions of the world government, which was previously limited to some very few characters like Aokiji, Smoker, Garp and Kobe. And speaking of Aokiji, he's the character I wanna talk about next. He was already one of my favorite characters, and now he's gotten even more interesting after joining Blackbeard. We finally get to see how Blackbeard managed to recruit Kuzan and what he was feeling after losing the fight against Akainu. His fight with Garp was genuinely incredible, especially with anime with all the insane impact frames that show their history together. And maybe I'm on copium, but I still believe that he froze Garp so that the others couldn't kill him right there. And that's why he also froze his face to hide his tears. Next up, let's talk about my quick thoughts on the Vegapunks. Stella is easily the best character, Shaka has the best character design, Lilith is cool, Edison is whatever, and I honestly didn't care about the traitor plotline with York. And finally, Atlas is my favorite because she's adorable. Loki a better mascot type character than Chopper. And before we move on to the highlights of this arc, I wanna give a massive shout out to Captain Buggy the Goat. Chapter 1082 completely recontextualizes his character by showing us the true reason he hated Shanks. And I can't even lie, I was low-key getting inspired by Buggy's declaration to go find the One Piece, and I'm completely down for Buggy being the one to find the One Piece first. Now let's finally talk about the Kuma backstory, which is considered as the highlight of this arc by most people. This is by far the darkest backstory in One Piece, and it doesn't hold anything back in showcasing the truly violent, disgusting nature of celestial dragons. Everything that happened with Ginny and Kuma made me sick to my stomach, but the one thing that I really love about this backstory is that it never feels like Oda is trying to make Kuma's life as tragic as he possibly can. Everything that happens to Kuma ties back into the deeper themes of One Piece, showcased in various arcs throughout the series. This backstory shows us all the messed up things about the world, and it doesn't simply stop at Kuma, because there are countless people still suffering at the hands of celestial dragons. Chapter 1098 shattered my heart into pieces, even though I was already spoiled by the memes about Kuma being the father that stepped up. And then we have chapter 1102, a look at some of the most iconic moments of the series through Kuma's perspective, eventually leading into the erasure of all of his free will. One page from this chapter that lives rent-free in my head is Kuma running throughout his life. Even after everything that happened to him, this man never stopped running, and even when he was starting to stumble, he got back up after remembering Bonnie. Plus, at this point in the story, he is still running to Egghead in order to save his daughter despite the condition he's in. Kuma is the kindest and most emotionally strong character we've seen in the series, and his journey is downright inspirational. And the backstory ends with Kuma once again saving his daughter from Saturn and punching an elder at the top of the world who turned him into a slave. No matter how much Saturn tried to rob Kuma of his free will, Kuma's unbreakable spirit defied him every step of the way and showed him the strength of humans he considers as insects. And that's pretty much all I have to say for this backstory. Absolute cinema. And now let's talk about some other highlight moments of this arc that really stood out to me. First up is the landfall of all the other elders at Egghead. This was such an insanely monumental moment for the series, and I'm glad we got the full double-page spread dedicated to this scene. Next up is the entirety of chapter 1106, especially the reveal that Vegapunk has programmed every single pacifista to obey Bonnie. This specific quote is easily one of my favorite lines in One Piece history. Plus, we also have the arrival of giants, which I was not expecting whatsoever, and it got me extremely hyped for Elbaf. Then we have chapter 1115, which is the reveal that the world of One Piece is sinking, and just how exactly so much of the ancient history was erased from the rest of the world. It was definitely one of the most insane reveals of the series, even though I already had similar theories. It's nice to have it officially confirmed, and I can't wait to see how the world reacts to this reveal from Vegapunk. Finally, we have Emmett using Joy Boy's haki, which was so powerful that it sends the elders back to their chairs and manages to scare Emu. This also results in Saturn getting his powers taken away and Garling replacing him. It was extremely cathartic to watch Saturn getting killed, even though I would have preferred Kuma and Bonnie to kill him. And now that I'm done with all the glazing, there are a few critiques that I have for Egghead. First, there is not enough focus on the Straw Hats in this arc. I had so many expectations for Sanji and especially Frankie meeting Vegapunk, but there were barely any interactions between them, which really sucks. My second critique is the random ass time skip that's not even expanded in the anime. The entire York fight gets off-screen, and Robin is suddenly injured and unable to move for the rest of the arc, along with a few more moments that just feel random. And my third and final critique is the pacing for Vegapunk's speech. After he's done with the major reveal about the world sinking, there are like 8 more chapters of Vegapunk talking about things that feel extremely redundant, and the only other reveal is Roger's true name revealed to the rest of the world. But yeah, those are my thoughts on Egghead arc of One Piece. It's a perfect start to the final saga of the series, with Oda changing up his writing style and not messing around anymore. It's currently a top 3 One Piece arc for me, and the rating could go even higher after seeing how the anime adapts some of my favorite moments. And that's pretty much all I wanted to talk about. Leave a like if you guys enjoyed the video, comment down below how you guys felt about this arc, and consider subscribing for more One Piece content and anime content in general. Peace.